In this video, we look at determining inventory costs. Now there are two factors here. One, we must get the count right, the quantity. And then two, we must put a price on what remains unsold. So keep in mind, what we do in a periodic inventory system is at the end of the accounting period, we, when the business is closed, count every item left unsold. And we must have an accurate account of that. And then once we have that account, then we must put a unit cost to compute the total cost of that. So this video discusses primarily the methods of costing physical inventory. We're going to assume that you have the right count. Now the problem for a merchandise company is that in times of increasing prices, they buy in the product at one time at $8, and then another time at $9 and $8.40 and so on. So due to inflation, prices are increasing. Now normally they would increase their selling price. But when they do the account at the end of the year, they only know that they had 80 items available for sale. Those 80 items cost them $690. They know they sold 60, and they know they sold it for $780. This they get from the cash register. But they don't know which 10 they sold on March 10th. Was it the 10 from the beginning inventory or the March 2nd purchase? They don't know the 10 that they sold on September 7th. And the 20 that remains unsold at the end of the year that we did with the physical count, where did those 20 come from? Were they the first ones bought? The ones bought on the May 28th or October 12th, or a mixture of December 21st and August 12th? Because the inventory is so similar, they have no idea of which purchase this 20 came. So we have to make some assumptions. Now, in the textbook, there are 4 different ways of valuing inventory. First of all, specific identification. Well, that is almost like a perpetual inventory system. That is, I know exactly. I can identify it. So basically, we're not talking about that. Now, we're talking about making an assumption. And the first assumption is that the items we sold were the first ones we had available. That is, the first ones that we bought were the first ones that we sold. Compare that with the other assumption. That is, the last ones that we bought were the first ones that we sold. And that's called the Lifo Method. And that means that the most recent purchases are the first costs charged to the cost of goods sold. And therefore, the inventory is the old one. Now, there are problems with Fifo and there are problems with Lifo. And one way to solve those, well, they think you solve the problem, is let's do a weighted average between the two. Well, weighted average is really not that important. What is important here is Fifo and Lifo, and that's what we will demonstrate in the next video. So again, the same information. These are the goods available for sale. There were 80 at $690. I did a physical count. I had 20 units. I don't know where the 20 has come from. So I assume that the way I sold these items were that the first ones in were the first ones out. So I sold 60. So obviously I sold these 10, this 10, this 20, this 10, and 10 of this. That's what I sold. So therefore, the ending inventory is equal to 10 times 880 plus these 10 here. 10 times 910. And when I do that, it equals $179. Okay? So the ending inventory is $179. So the 60 that I sold, I had available. Cost of goods sold then is equal to the cost of goods available, which is $690, minus ending inventory, which is 179. Therefore, I don't have to add up all those costs. I can determine it by subtracting ending inventory from the goods available. So under Fifo, I'm saying that the value of the ending inventory is 179, and the cost of the goods I sold were 511. Now let's compare that with Lifo. Under Lifo, we assume that the 60 that were sold were the last ones purchased. So those 60 would be this 10, this 20, this 30, this 10, and that 20. And therefore, the ending inventory would be the 10 times $8 or 80, and the 10 at 850 or 85. So here we say that the ending inventory is 165, not 179 like we said under Fifo. Therefore, cost of sales or cost of goods sold is equal to the 690 goods available for sale minus the 165 that we estimate under the Fifo basis. So we say then our cost of goods sold is 525. So you can see that in this case our cost of goods sold is higher than it was under Fifo, and therefore our net income is going to be lower under Fifo. So Fifo shows a higher net income than Lifo, not because the company did a better job, simply because there are sort of what's called paper profits in Fifo. That is, that profit that is gained by expensing old items and retaining the new ones in ending inventory. So that concludes how we determine. We have to make an assumption, Fifo and Lifo. Now, weighted average is somewhere between Fifo and Lifo. Not too many companies use it, and on any test, it's going to be Lifo and Fifo.